Hello everyone, this is Defense Politics Asia, and this is the summary for the day of 625 to 626 for the 10th to the 11th of November. There will be some information or intelligence or stuff coming from today because we are in a half day into the 12th of November as per the recording. So let's start off with the biggest major frontline action over at the Avdiivka Front, just north of Donetsk city. This is the Avdiivka Front, and there is some rumors or information about a major attack into Stepove. So, and then I saw some comments over in this. Comments in the previous video claiming that the Russian forces have captured Stepove. This is actually not true. The information, no trusted sources actually claims that the Russian forces have captured Stepove. So what happened is that the Russian forces actually launched an attack in this direction. They managed to secure, they managed to go this far, only a third of Stepove, and then they call this reconnaissance by combat. They actually just come here, they attack, they have no... It's like a surprise attack against the Ukrainian forces that was actually holding up positions over here. As the Ukrainian forces got pushed back, they actually stopped. They are not equipped to hold position or stop to actually stay there. So the Russian forces withdrew back into their lines along the railway station or railway track, and then the Ukrainian forces also at the same time launched a counter-attack with Bradley vehicles and whatnot. So which is why also in the geolocation you kind of find it a bit weird. There is the Russian the front line being geolocated by Dnipro OC over within Stepove itself. However, other of these geolocations is actually behind on the rear. So you can see Bradley vehicles, and as what I understood as well, there is a Leopard tank involved in the counter-attack by the Ukrainians as they push the Russians back to their original line along the railway track. So basically, according to Ukrainian mappings, you will see that this entire area here is now gray zone. These areas are now gray zone. However, it's not a full capture by the Russian forces. And if you want to put a distance into these things, this was merely a 500 to maybe 800 meter push. So it's not the big crazy advance that people want you to think it is. So no, it's not. But definitely they're gonna get your clicks, which I will not get the clicks because I'm just so stupid. So other than that, we have some continued Russian offensive within the Avdiivka towards Novosilka. As of course we already talked about Stepove. There's an attack coming from the southeast of Avdiivka is confirmed with geolocation. They are still trying to attack some of this part. I will show you later. There's attack around Zhivane, south of Tonenke, Vodian, and Pervomayske. Ukrainian forces also did their counter-attack, of course, Stepove in the north of Krasnohorivka. And I think, yeah, that's about it in terms of the offensive. There's nothing much to shout about about this area here. The Ukrainian forces did counter-attack on the 10th. Before that, it is the Russians that was pushing around this area here. Geolocation of Russian forces by Kreminna shows that the Russians actually succeeded to take over this patch of farmland. And we've moved on south. Over at the southern front, southern part of Avdiivka city. This Avdiivka city. There is geolocation of the front line within this industrial area. So the Russian tank actually entered and fired at possible Ukrainian positions within this area here, which we did previously geolocate Ukrainian forces within this industrial area along this Yasinovsky lane, and this shows that the Russians are attacking in this position. So however, Russian forces that previously seems to have captured this highway and railway track close proximity region, where there is this road, this small road, with two bridges going over the highway as well as the railway track. This position has been seemingly recaptured by Ukrainian forces. The latest geolocation suggests that the Russians used the UR-77. This is actually the some kind of a string artillery kind of thing, where they actually destroy entrenchment and whatnot, and it has been used in this conflict with great effect against infantry that is hiding within entrenchment. So the Russian vehicle must be very near in order to launch this attack, and then they actually hit the Ukrainian forces that was probably retook this entrenchment position after the Russians withdraw, because this is a very messy place to stay. You know, it's not comfortable. It was totally shot out and destroyed, and yeah, then the Ukrainians just re-enter to get grind. So there's further geolocation of Ukrainian positions attacked by drones further up north. So in the south, if you take in this position, if you look at this, it looks like the Russians are still doing the grind. Mainly they are just grinding the Ukrainian forces in this region. They could have already pushed into this settlement in the south of Avdiivka easily, and they could have sent infantry to clear out this industrial area while the tank is actually giving them hell. But however, this did not happen, so this is evidence that the Russian forces is still just deliberately holding back in this area here. And so while they make a very scary push at Stepove to draw in even more reinforcement, there is also information coming from pro-Russian sources saying that the more reinforcement from the Ukrainian side have been brought over to the Avdiivka direction from other front lines. So perhaps this is really going to be Bakhmut number 2, where they deliberately want the Ukrainians to throw in everything into Avdiivka to save face. Over in the Giverny region, there is fighting reported at Giverny over the 10 to 11 by the Ukrainian Defense Ministry. They also claim about fighting near Tonenki. Deep State UA talk about fighting in the area of Vodian as well as Pervomaiske, which is then also mentioned by the Ukrainian Defense Ministry. Most of this action in this area here on the western part of Avdiivka is actually only reported by the Ukrainian side. The Russians did not mention anything about this. So mainly because the Russians are on the offensive, that's why we don't get information from them. And that's it from the Avdiivka front. And now we move on into the rotation, into our normal way of reporting. We go from the southern front over at the Dnipro River region in the Kherson Front. The Ukrainian forces continue to hold positions within Kreminna. They continue to send reinforcement and resupply into the forces over here, and they started to expand within this area here. The extent of this expansion is unclear, but they are conducting operations over here, which is acknowledged by Ryba as well as Deep State UA over on the 10th of November. We didn't see information from the 11th talking about the fighting over here. Ultimately, this is a very obscure place to talk about, but the fighting is big enough that they actually talked about it. So according to Ryba, they did mention that heavy fighting continued over in the village of Kreminna and the Kherson Strike Group Navy continued to land along the settlement. So they managed to gain a foothold to the forest belt to the south and occupy several positions. However, those Ukrainian forces that enter further into the forest fall into ambushes and they got destroyed. So that's what happened over at Kreminna. So anyway, while if you watch until here, I'm quite sure you are a DPA supporter or fan. This is the old school, old school UI. I drop all the black ones, all the border region. So go back to the very old school, the first half of the year type of layout. Because yeah, I just thought going back to old school a bit, see whether the views will go better, because I noticed some of these very new channels with a very minimal UI are getting a lot of views. So let's go back to the old school. Maybe people just don't like to have too much designs around. So yeah, so overqualification is a problem. Don't be so overqualified. So yeah, don't get a graduate to sweep the floor. Yeah, just make them have no job. Just do Uber Eats. Anyway, the MiG-29, another MiG-29 was shot down over Zaporizhzhia. Again, it's by air defense. Virtually, the air defense systems is being overpowered right now. They're very OP. I'm not sure what happened, as usual. At Orihiv sector, this is Orihiv. This is Orihiv. I get too excited. The circle get too big. So the Ukrainian forces went into the offensive, fighting at the west of Robotine, south of Robotine, in the north of Novosilka, and towards Verbove. The Russian forces also did counterattack, mainly over in the Robotine region. So the Ukrainians are. So let me redraw. So the Russians are pushing in this direction, with Ukrainians pushing in. So this is the general strategy picture that it looks. The over at this west of Robotine, Ukrainian Defense Ministry and Russian Defense Ministry both talked about the fighting at Robotine from the 10th to the 11th. And actually it's on to the 12th. Actually, the last one is actually to the 12th. I forgot to change this. The 12th. And then the Ukrainians themselves are counterattacking on the 10th. The another fighting is reported on the 10th is actually in the north of Novosilka. However, on the 11th they did not talk about this offensive. So yeah, mainly because DPA didn't talk about it. There is geolocation, however, to prove the fighting, with infantry geolocated at this position. They are attacking towards Novosilka and then got destroyed. Which could actually refers to this action that was being reported about the fighting towards Novosilka, because you can see it's on the same date. So the Ukrainians still stuck out just on the outskirts of Novosilka. They still unable to get in. Geolocation of Ukrainian forces just off on the western part of Verbove shows that the Ukrainians are still in this area here. They are still trying to fight, but mainly is still on the 10th. Geolocation further up north, at this position also shows no changes in terms of the front line, but the attack is only reported on the 10th. There's no report on the 11th about this attack. So I wonder if they are spent. Of course, every time I say this, they're going to go on the offensive the next day. So let's see. Moving on, over at the Hulyaipole sector, at Melanivka, in today's report, just released 2 hours ago as per this recording, the Russian Defense Ministry reported that they attacked Ukrainian forces at Melanivka who were doing rotation. So I start to realize that for the Ukrainians, when they do rotation, it's actually a very risky time, because it is during rotation of troops. So if you are not familiar, is when you cannot expect a soldier to stay in the trenches or a defensive position forever. They need to rest. They need to resupply. They need to get their head cleared. And that's when the shift, they have to change shift. Another force will come and take over your position. But however, it is when at this position, this time where another force is entering the area of combat, of operation, where the Russians can spot them. And that's when it is the most dangerous, because they can be tracked by drones and whatnot, and they can be destroyed in that sense. So far, rotation is usually very dangerous in today's age of fighting, due to drones. North of Prione, now we are now in the Velyka Novosilka sector. So this is the Velyka Novosilka. There is fighting, as per also the latest report from today, that there is fighting in the north of Prione. Deep State UA reported on the 10th that there is Russian activities west of Staromayoske, which probably shows that the Russians are still in the western part of this area here. May not be an offensive operation. They just say activities. Maybe they are playing chess. Nowadays I'm very into chess. Maybe they are trying to be the next Magnus Carlsen. Who knows? So over at Staromayoske itself, the Russians were attacking according to the Ukrainian Defense Ministry on the 10th to the 11th. On the 12th, which is just now, again, it's a rotational attack in the same report as per the ones at Milanivka. The Ukrainians did counterattack on the 10th, but they did not go anywhere. Front line was not known to have changed, and that's it from the Velyka Novosilka sector. We move into the Donetsk Front. Over the Donetsk Front, there is fighting reported near Zolota Neva on the 11th of November. Same thing happened at the fortress city of Voleda. There was some fighting over here. However, the Ukrainians were reportedly launching an attack at Mikhailske on the 12th, which was repelled by the 128th Territorial Defense, which is actually also quite scary because the territorial defense is now offending. They are doing the assault. So it is not a good sign because I don't think these guys sign up for this kind of job. Territorial defense by right, they are just to hold positions. They are not meant to go on the offensive. So that's actually quite disturbing. Yeah. Geolocation of Ukrainian forces by military summary over at this position. So that shows the Ukrainians are still in this area here, but of course, yeah, it's just a matter of time to get hit by artillery. Over at Novosilka, the Russians seems to be conducting some clear offensive operations in this area here. Ukrainian Defense Ministry first talked about this on the 10th. On the 11th, Russian Defense Ministry, Ukrainian Defense Ministry both talked about this attack by the Russians' Vostok group of forces. They are supported by helicopters and artillery in their attacks. And on the 12th, which is today, we also see this reported. But this is talking about the rotation thing. We move into Marinka. Marinka, as usual, we have these reports of fighting on the 10th and the 11th. In Marinka, I literally can't be bothered with this village now because it's like it's like they are all just shake hand and they just sit there and do nothing. They're just saying that let's both report to our HQ that we are fighting, and so that they don't send us to die. So that we both don't die. We just shake hand and we play football every day, and it feels like this to me. It's like there is a truce over there with the troops, and then they just decided to just make false report about fighting. Anyway, we're done with Avdiivka. We move on into the Bakhmut Front, as there's nothing over at the New York. This is Bakhmut City, the infamous Bakhmut City that is also now known as Wagner land, which is also known as Wagner no longer exists land. So which meant it's just land. So over in the southern flank of the Bakhmut Front, the Russian forces continue their major counter-offensive action in the south of Bakhmut, with heavy fighting reported, especially around the Klishchiivka region. There is a push towards Ivanivsky, and there's fighting reported at Andriivka. Most of this information actually comes from the Ukrainian Defense Ministry. So you can see 10 to 11 is by the Ukrainian Defense Ministry. On the 9 to the 10 to the 11th, Russian Defense Ministry actually reported this as well about the fighting at Klishchiivka. Deep State UA also chipped in about Klishchiivka. The Deep State actually mentioned about Russian forces carry out large-scale attack on Klishchiivka, and situation is difficult. And the Ukrainian Defense Ministry basically just say that they repelled attack over this region. The Ukrainians did try to counterattack on the 11th, according to the Russian Defense Ministry, but didn't seem to have worked out. There is geolocation of Ukrainian forces within Klishchiivka getting hit by drones at this position, just in the northern edge of Klishchiivka. There is continued to have this fighting towards Ivanivsky by the Ukrainian Defense Ministry on the 10th of November. And then as we move into the northern flank, I use this road, this T0504 road, as the cut between the two flanks. In the northern flank, there is the very important geolocation. This geolocation on the 10th of November by Kreminna Caprice shows Ukrainian forces just off Bakhmut city, which actually confirms our front line, and the assumption that the Russians stick to the urban zone, whereas the Ukrainians are the elves, which actually does make sense because the Russians are the orcs, and the orcs are very they like concrete, they like stones, so they stay here, and then the elves like to stay in the forest, so that makes sense, which is why they are fighting the orcs, which, yeah, there's also a lot of the ring, makes sense. Yeah, and actually moving on, the northern flank is very quiet. There's nothing much except that we have some geolocation of Ukrainian forces on the M03 highway, or M4 E40 highway, that's moving towards Sloviansk, and you can see it goes all the way to I went too far. I go all the way to Sloviansk over here. This is the highway, and there is Ukrainian forces positioned within the forest line along the highway, and they got hit by shelling from the Russian side. So my understanding is that the Russians hold this forest region, so these Ukrainian forces is actually right here at the front line must be feeling very, very uncomfortable. So moving on away, there is fighting reported again near Bodarne. This is reported again by the Russian Defense Ministry. This is a continuation from the 9th report. This happened on the 10th, and they say that the Yoke group of forces, so Yoke means Yoke means south, the south group of forces, supported by aviation, artillery, so airstrike, artillery strike, heavy flamethrower systems over at Bodarne, and of course Klishevka and Mykolaievka, which is Mykolaievka is actually here. So I'm not sure if they are using so much. I think most of these supporting systems is at Klishevka. So it's just interesting that they keep talking about Bodarne. I'm not sure if there is a change of front line where the Russians are actually pushing in this area here, and towards Bodarne. And if they do so, that is actually also pretty clever, because if they capture Bodarne first, they'll cut the reinforcement to or resupply route to Vasilkivka, which then Ukrainian forces will have to redraw to Fedorivka or Pazeno. Then after that, they will have to hold a new line of defense along this settlement or the tree lines. So that is also possible, and this will then trigger some of these theories that I have of what could be happening 1 year ago, almost 1 year ago, of where this could lead to. The Russians could go all the way to Orihivka, go backwards, and then cut all the way up, and then Siversk will be operationally encircled. So, but of course, yeah, let's not go so far. As we mentioned, Mykolaievka got attacked as well. But the Ukrainians did counterattack at Vasilkivka on the 11th of November. As you can see, this happened on the 10th. Ukrainian counterattack on the 11th. So, and then there's a counterattack over at Razdolivka as well on the 11th. So this attack by the Russians did indeed draw Ukrainian forces attention into this area here, and they did a counterattack over at this sector here. So that's pretty interesting, I would say. Who attack? They didn't write who attacked. So moving on into the Siversk Front. This is Siversk city. So just now on the southern part, this is already part of the Siversk Front's action. But something unusual happened. The Ukrainian attack at Bilohorivka on in today's Russian Defense Ministry's report. The attack is the last happened is on the 2nd of October. So we are talking about like more than 1 full month since the last Ukrainian push out in this area here at Bilohorivka. I'm not sure if this is an attempt to draw Russian forces away from the active fronts, but tentatively, if I'm not mistaken, the Russians may have parity in terms of manpower with the Ukrainian forces. So if you have parity, then I don't think this kind of thing will do a lot, especially you have a severe disadvantage in terms of air support, artillery, and tanks and armor. So the advantage and the initiative is definitely on the Russian side. Over at the PG front, so this is the PG. I draw it badly. Okay, this is the PG. Oh, that's a big year, so it become a rabbit now. So the rabbit piggy front at Kreminna, there is sudden reports heavy fighting reported within Serebryansky forestry. The Russian Defense Ministry reported the Ukrainians attack within the Serebryansky forestry, while the Russians also talked about them attacking the Ukrainian first Special Operation Brigade within the Serebryansky forestry region. Ukraine MOD also acknowledged this. They corroborated the information and they continue to report the fighting over on the 11th of November. So there is some heavy fighting within this area here. And Serebrenka actually was mentioned again. But I'm really not sure how to map this, so I'm ignoring the information tentatively. I wonder if the front line is actually very close to Serebrenka. I'm not sure. And over at Dibrova, the Ukrainians also counterattack in this area here, along with the Serebryansky forestry near Dibrova. Of course, the vector of attack may actually come from the south instead of from the west. But it is just my habit that when we talk about Dibrova, I point in this direction. But of course, the attack from the last report the last SITREP that I mentioned, it could come from the south. So yeah, if you didn't watch the last SITREP, yeah, you may want to go and watch it. Over at Nevsky, on the 10th of November, the Ukrainian Defense Ministry report the Russians attacked Nevsky, and that's about it from the Kreminna Front. We move into the Svatove Front. This is Svatove. At Svatove, we have continued fighting reported near Kharkivka, which the Russians like to call Petrovskoye. The Ukrainians counterattacked this time round on the 11th of November. Within this region here, there's not much to talk about because the defense ministries don't really give much information. And further up north, the Deep State UA it's the Ukrainian Defense Ministry mentioned about fighting at Novosilka. On the 10th of November, the Russians seems to be conducting some probing in this area here. The next probe on the 11th by the Ukrainian Defense Ministry was at Nadia. So the Russians may have touched this left side thingy, then they touch the right side thingy, then the Ukrainians get aroused by this. Further up north, there is fighting reported at Stemakivka on the 10th to the 11th. This is usual. Russians have always been reported very often to be attacking within this region, but the front line almost don't change. This is almost, and one of those places is very similar to almost like Marinka, but Marinka, no one can beat Marinka. Marinka is the most is the most fake place in this Ukraine war. So we are in the Kupyansk Front. So this place is where you cope the most, and because it's Kupyansk. And at the Kupyansk Front, the Russians continue their Kupyansk offensive in the Liman-Pershi-Sinkivka region as well as in the Ivaniska-Olyansk region. And there's another push south of Vyshana towards the northeastern part of Petropavlivka. Ukrainian forces are counterattacking within Sinkivka as well as in the Zagoryivka region. I believe that's what you call it. Zagoryivka, sorry, I totally call it wrong. So Zagoryivka region. And so this is the strategic picture how it looks like. However, the fighting over at Ivanivska is on the 10th to the 11th. Ukrainian Defense Ministry talked about it. Deep State UA refused to use the word Ivanivka. They prefer Olyanske. So it's probably the same thing. And then the Ukrainian forces also talk about Sinkivka from the 10th to the 11th. They talk about the fighting over this region here. But Deep State UA also like to use Liman-Pershi. I'm so sorry. Liman-Pershi on the 10th of November. Ukrainian forces seems to counterattack on the 10th to the 11th according to the Russian Defense Ministry. So which also makes me wonder if it's a projection. Maybe it's the Ukrainians that are doing the offensive. However, Ukrainian Defense Ministry did come out with a report about fighting northeast of Petropavlivka. So that shows this attack in this area here. If they succeed to cut in this way, which is clearly they can't, because if it does, it will still take a month. So we will have a very slow motion car crash, which the car is moving at 5 cm per hour, and then the person have to scream for many years. So unlikely. Zagoryivka is interesting. 11 to the 12th, the Russian Defense Ministry mentioned about Ukrainians attacking in this area here. So The front line didn't seem to change much. I'm not sure what is all this fighting about, but that's it. Thanks for the quote. And this is the summary for the day. For the day of what is this? For the day of oh, I actually forgot to put the title on the top here. Yeah, but it's okay, never mind. For the 10th to the 11th of November, for the 625 to 626 day of the Ukraine war, or the special military operation in Ukraine that has went stale and totally rotten and totally doesn't look like a special military operation. But no, Israel make it looks totally like a special military operation because because the Russians do not bomb the way how Western Air Force does. Thank you for watching. Do press the like button, subscribe. Yeah, I mean it. No, press the like button and subscribe. Press the like button, and I'll see you in the next update.